1847, The Old Man Who Ate His Family's Secrets. Sinister warning, what you are about to discover has forever changed the lives of those who investigated this case. This may be your only chance to learn secrets that have haunted researchers for decades. Without your immediate engagement, you will never find documentaries about mysteries that challenge sanity again. The algorithm permanently buries content that doesn't receive likes in the first minutes. Chronicle of Forbidden Mysteries Haunted Special Edition, 1847. The Old Man Who Ate His Family's Secrets. Terrifying discovery reveals experiments that defy nature. Exclusive investigation exposes medical conspiracy that haunts to this day. Narrated by Professor Edmund Crowe, antiquarian who has refused to sleep since reading these documents. Brave readers, prepare yourselves to discover truths that have disturbed investigators for generations. For years, whispered rumors in medical corridors spoke of experiments that transformed innocent family members into living nightmares. What we have uncovered transcends the worst fears of human imagination. The case of Ezekiel Thornwood, a patriarch of South Carolina, exposes a sinister conspiracy that extends to the darkest circles of experimental medicine in 1847. This is not Gothic fiction, every line has been verified through documents that should never have survived the passage of time. In 1847, while our society celebrated scientific progress, an organization known only as the Circle of Temporal Consumption conducted experiments that transformed innocent family gatherings into cannibalistic nightmares. Ezekiel was not chosen by chance, but for characteristics that made him the perfect specimen for their sick obsessions with memory consumption. Terrifying transformation documented in photographs. Confidential documents obtained through our investigation reveal that Dr. Thaddeus Blackwood, the sinister mind behind the operation, had developed substances that forced unnatural consumption of memories through flesh. Ezekiel was subjected to treatments that transformed a dignified Southern gentleman into a ravenous consumer of familial memories in a matter of weeks. Medical photographs, preserved in archives that librarians keep locked with 7 keys, show the demonic progression, teeth gradually sharpening during the first week, jaw structure expanding unnaturally in the second, eyes developing an unnatural hunger in the third. At 72 years chronological age, Ezekiel presented biological characteristics of a predatory entity consuming not just flesh but the very memories contained within. Sinister circle funded by cursed families. Our investigation discovered that the circle received funding from industrial dynasties obsessed with the prospect of achieving immortality through profane science. Each experiment cost fortunes, paid with the suffering of families transformed into guinea pigs for diabolical ambitions. The rituals conducted combined experimental medicine with medieval occultism. Ezekiel was kept in underground cells decorated with alchemical symbols, subjected to ceremonies that mixed medical procedures with Latin incantations that made blood freeze in the veins. Corrupted authorities protect conspirators. Evidence reveals that municipal authorities, influential families, and corrupt clergy members were aware of the circle's sinister activities. Death records were falsified, families were silenced through dark threats, and any official investigation was systematically sabotaged by invisible forces. Dr. Harrison, medical examiner who subsequently developed night terrors, secretly documented impossible anatomical discrepancies. Elderly skeletons with strange dental formations, organs with unusual digestive adaptations, brains with characteristic patterns of memory consumption, physical evidence of temporal manipulation that defies scientific explanation. Nightmares haunt investigators to this day. Every person who investigated this case developed unexplainable psychological disturbances. Margaret Thornfield, librarian who discovered the archives, began experiencing memory loss after reading the documents. Dr. Blackthorne developed a paranoid obsession with his own family history. Professor Crowe refuses to attend family dinners since seeing the photographs of Ezekiel. Cursed archives reveal demonic methodology. Our investigation led us to the State Medical Archives, where we discovered evidence of systematic tampering that suggests supernatural intervention. Pages torn out with surgical precision impossible to achieve, stamps that changed color according to the light, signatures that seemed to move when observed peripherally. The crucial discovery came through carbon copies that librarians swore had been destroyed decades ago. These documents mysteriously appeared organized on our research table one morning, as if invisible forces wanted the truth about Ezekiel to be revealed. Blackwood's diaries written in ink that changes color. Dr. Thaddeus Blackwood kept records in ink that transformed according to ambient temperature, revealing hidden texts when handled. His notes, written in archaic German mixed with alchemical symbols, describe procedures that defy both medicine and physics. Ezekiel was identified in the records as Memory Specimen Alpha, designation that reduced a living patriarch to an object of experimental consumption. The selection criteria were disturbingly specific: elderly patriarchs with family histories of exceptional memory retention, all born during winter solstices, considered biological memory repositories. The mnemonic essence developed by Blackwood combined elements of folk medicine with extracts from preserved brains, creating a compound that the scientist believed could transfer memories through consumption of family flesh. The treatments were administered directly through elaborate family dinners during night ceremonies. Photographs that haunt those who observe them. A photographic series attached to the reports documents a transformation that haunts anyone who dares look at the images for more than a few seconds. The initial photographs show Ezekiel as a dignified Southern gentleman with an innocent smile. The subsequent images record deterioration that seems to continue even after the photographer's death. First week, teeth begin to sharpen as if time accelerated only in them. Second week, jaw structure expands, forming patterns reminiscent of predatory beings. Third week, eyes develop a hunger that reflects images of people who are still alive. Fourth week, Ezekiel presents the appearance of a predator that has consumed centuries of family memories. The most disturbing aspect was that the patriarch's mind remained intact inside the consumption-transformed body. Psychological records document Ezekiel crying for his children with the broken voice of a predator, creating an existential contradiction that tormented even the most hardened executors. National Network of Haunted Laboratories. Intercepted correspondences reveal that Blackwood did not operate in isolation. The Circle maintained a network of collaborators in at least 8 states, all conducting variations of the same experiments in laboratories that were subsequently abandoned due to inexplicable manifestations. Each laboratory received funding from local industrial groups, creating a national conspiracy of family exploitation disguised as revolutionary mnemonic research. The total number of victims may reach hundreds of families, all sacrificed on the altar of scientific ambition corrupted by the obsession with memory immortality. Financial records show that each experiment cost fortunes provided by families who subsequently suffered inexplicable generational curses, unexplained disappearances, memory deterioration, early-onset dementia. As if participation in the conspiracy brought temporal retribution. Underground facilities where time behaves strangely. Ezekiel was kept in an underground complex built 3 floors below the main hospital. Modern visitors report that clocks stop working at the location, family memories temporarily fade after prolonged stays, and mirrors reflect forgotten versions of those who observe them. The environment combined medical equipment with alchemical symbols engraved on copper plates that oxidize and restore cyclically. Temperature fluctuates independently of heating systems, and there are reports of whispers in dead languages echoing during new moon dawns. Temporal transfer of memory essence, theory that haunts science. Technical documents reveal that experiments with Ezekiel were part of a much more sinister and comprehensive project. The Circle had developed a pseudoscientific theory called temporal transfer of memory essence, combining experimental medicine with occultism in a way that defies rational understanding. The central hypothesis suggested that human memory processes could be extracted from one person and concentrated in substances administrable to others through specific rituals conducted during medical procedures. Blackwood believed he was distilling generations into memory elixirs. underground laboratory where time behaves abnormally. Ezekiel was kept in a specially constructed cell where physical laws seemed altered. Clocks worked at different speeds depending on the location in the room, plants grew and died in accelerated cycles, and photographs revealed that images aged independently of the photographed subjects. The environment combined state-of-the-art medical equipment with alchemical symbols that glowed with their own phosphorescence during experiments. Temperature was controlled not by thermostats, but by lunar phases, and lighting was provided by candles made with substances that made shadows move against the direction of light. During weekly rituals, Ezekiel was positioned in the center of a circle engraved on the floor while Blackwood and assistants recited incantations that made the air vibrate with frequencies that caused temporal disorientation. Simultaneously, the patriarch was subjected to procedures that included the serving of specially prepared family meals with unnatural ingredients. Development of impossible temporal capacities. Records document that Ezekiel developed abilities that defy temporal physics during experiments. Blackwood observed episodes where the elderly man demonstrated knowledge of his ancestors' memories, spoke about family secrets that no living person knew, and showed comprehension of events that had happened generations before his birth. Most disturbing were the recorded memory projections. Ezekiel began to describe his family's lives across different generations simultaneously, as if he existed in multiple temporal lines. Blackwood interpreted these manifestations as evidence that the experiments were expanding the specimen's temporal memory perception. Existential suffering documented in psychological reports. Medical photographs show Ezekiel developing simultaneous characteristics of multiple family members, teeth patterns matching his grandfather's, facial expressions identical to his great-uncle's, voice inflections that mimic deceased relatives. It was a biological contradiction that transformed existence into a constant temporal nightmare. Dr. Elizabeth Hartwell, nurse who subsequently developed selective amnesia about the period, wrote in her diary, "Every night I hear Ezekiel cry in the basement. They are not the tears of an old man nor the groans of a predator, but the laments of someone who exists in all family memories simultaneously." Ritual of temporal culmination, cursed final ceremony. The experiments reached a climax during a ceremony that Blackwood called the ritual of temporal culmination. During a procedure that extended over 3 consecutive nights, Ezekiel was subjected to the final process, complete extraction of what the scientist believed to be concentrated memory essence. The objective was to collect a substance that Blackwood theorized contained generations of vital family experience temporally compressed. This essence would be refined and administered to the paying members of the circle as an elixir that promised not just memory immortality, but control over personal temporal flow. The last medical records of Ezekiel are too disturbing for complete description. The patriarch, at 72 chronological years, presented characteristics of a memory predator, but maintained consciousness that existed simultaneously across multiple generations until the final moment. Supernatural consequences haunt participants. Professor Edmund Crowe, specialist in historical secret societies, developed a disturbing theory. The circle of temporal consumption wasn't just manipulating biology, it was altering local memory structure. Experiments may have created an anomaly that continues to affect anyone who investigates the case. Evidence of this theory: every investigator who studied Ezekiel's archives developed symptoms of temporary accelerated memory loss, nightmares involving multiple versions of their family members, and distorted perception of temporal passage. As if knowledge of the case caused temporal contamination. Haunted survivors break decades of terrified silence. Our investigation managed to locate 3 survivors who witnessed events from 1847, all having developed psychological disturbances that persist decades later. Their accounts, collected in interviews that needed to be interrupted multiple times due to episodes of panic, reveal details that no official document recorded. Eleanor Whitmore, nurse who developed premature memory loss. Eleanor Whitmore, now with the appearance of a centenarian at 73 years, was a young trainee during the period of the experiments. She received us only after we presented specific credentials, and kept all windows closed during the interview, claiming that daylight makes her remember what she saw. "I was only 16, Eleanor recalled with a voice that oscillated between youthful timbre and elderly, but I immediately realized something was altering memory in the hospital. There were corridors where clocks functioned differently, sounds of crying that seemed to come simultaneously from the past and future. Eleanor was the only person outside of Blackwood's team who directly witnessed Ezekiel during the temporal transformation. One night, working beyond her hours, she accidentally witnessed a ritual through the basement window and was never the same. What I saw changed not just my life, but my perception of memory," she continued, her hands trembling with a rhythm that didn't correspond to her chronological age. Hooded men, candles that burned with flames that moved against the wind, and in the center an old man who existed in multiple family memories simultaneously. Thomas Harrison, son of the cursed medical examiner. Thomas Harrison, 85 years old but appearing 50, inherited not only his father's secret notes but also a curse that affects the family's temporal perception. Clocks in his house function at different speeds, and old photographs show him aging at an inconsistent rhythm. "My father knew the experiments were altering local memory structure," Thomas explained during an interview that lasted simultaneously 2 hours and 6 hours depending on the clock consulted. He found bodies with impossible memory characteristics. Dr. Harrison had secretly photographed victims, including Ezekiel. Images show contradictions that persist decades later. When observed quickly, they show a normal elderly man; when contemplated longer, they reveal a predatory entity; when photographed again, they appear different with each development. "My father suspected that Blackwood had discovered how to manipulate biological memory," Thomas added. "He found evidence that cells remembered independently of the body, as if each part existed in a different memory line." Sarah Caldwell, survivor with fragmented family memories. The most devastating testimony came from Sarah Caldwell, 88 chronological years, who appears different ages depending on lighting. At 9 years old, she was selected for the program but managed to escape before the final procedures, though not without permanent temporal consequences. Sarah still exhibits physical anomalies, memories that alternate between clarity and fog depending on the seasons, recollections that appear and disappear, and reflections in mirrors that show versions of different family members. Her memories exist simultaneously in multiple temporal lines. "They kept us in cells where memory functioned strangely," Sarah recalled in the presence of her grandson, who observed uneasily how her appearance changed during the conversation. There were other family members, perhaps 10 or 12. Ezekiel was in the adjacent cell, and I heard not just his current cries, but echoes of cries from all the family memories he would experience. Sarah described rituals where family members were forced to participate in ceremonies that mixed medicine with temporal manipulation. Men in white chose a different family member each night. When they took Ezekiel, he returned existing in multiple family memories simultaneously. Ezekiel Thornwood's final moments, fragmented memory existence. Sarah's most disturbing description involves Ezekiel's final moments. He had become something that defies description: grandfather, father, son and grandchild existing in the same body. "One night I heard not just screams coming from his cell, but temporal echoes of all moments of his family life happening simultaneously." Dr. Margaret Thornfield, who interviewed Sarah decades later using regressive hypnosis, confirmed authenticity through details that coincide with never-published documents. Sarah's memories show temporal fragmentation that persists to this day. She literally remembers her family's future. Temporal curse pursues investigators. All testimonies converge. Investigating Ezekiel's case causes temporal contamination in researchers. Every person who studies the archives develops similar symptoms: distorted perception of family memories, irregular remembering, memories of events they never lived. "It wasn't just a medical experiment," concluded Eleanor Whitmore, whose appearance visibly changed during our interview. "It was a rupture in the memory structure that continues to affect anyone who approaches the truth about what they did with that elderly patriarch." Temporal curse remains active, investigation ends in terror. Our 2-year investigation revealed truths that not only shook our sanity but altered our fundamental perception of temporal reality. The circle of temporal consumption did not merely conduct experiments, they created an anomaly that persists, haunting anyone who dares investigate Ezekiel Thornwood's case. Dr. Thaddeus Blackwood never faced earthly justice. Records suggest that he may have discovered how to prolong existence indefinitely through memory manipulation, possibly still existing today at an impossible age. Some investigators report sightings of a man who corresponds to his description, always appearing to have exactly the same age. Ezekiel Thornwood, existence that transcends death. Officially, Ezekiel died in 1847. Unofficially, multiple witnesses report manifestations suggesting he may exist simultaneously in multiple family memory lines. Visitors to the old hospital site describe encounters with an elderly man resembling Ezekiel, always asking, "Whose memories do you think I carry?" Location remains haunted by temporal anomaly. Today, the ruins of South Carolina Hospital are avoided by local residents who report inexplicable phenomena, clocks that function at different speeds, shadows that move against the direction of the sun, and whispers of voices that speak about memories that make no sense. Professor Edmund Crowe, antiquarian who has refused to sleep since reading these documents. Final warning, this investigation ends here for reasons of personal sanity. Remaining files will be permanently sealed. We recommend readers avoid investigating this case, as knowledge may cause irreversible temporal contamination. Temporal contamination possible. 3 investigators who studied this case developed irregular unexplained memory loss. If this content does not receive massive engagement, algorithms will permanently bury revelations like this. Your interaction may be the last chance for others to discover temporal truths before they are lost forever.